Oh my God! Okay, it's happening. Everybody stay calm.
What's the procedure, everyone? What's the procedure?
Stay calm.
Happy rate date cut today, I think. My personal opinion, I think there's going to be at least, say, 25 basis points. I find it unlikely we're going to hold. But there's some people getting carried away that this is going to be amazing for the markets. But I'm not too sure. So I want to give you a little bit of an idea of what my brain's thinking right now, right? Let me know in the comments, please. It would be massively helpful for this video to grow. Let me know what you think. We're going to have a 25 basis points, 50 or 75. Let me know. It will be released not too long after this video is hopefully published. The first thing we have to look at, and it's obvious, is ETFs are, as of like the 12, starting to put more money back in. Interesting. BlackRock have not though. Keep an eye on that one. But we need to talk about obviously what's going to be happening. Rate cuts are very much at the front of it. We have to talk about the S&P, the Dow Jones, the Nasdaq, and the momentum there. We're going to talk about Bitcoin, altcoins, all that kind of stuff, right? If you want more of this stuff, leave a like on the video and most importantly, subscribe so you don't miss out. I'm very, very cautious. Now, even though the thumbnail says get ready, I think there's going to be volatility here. Whatever way this goes, right? And in my personal opinion, I think it's going to go obviously two ways. We've got 25 base points and, most importantly, 50. 50 might jitter the market a bit too much. Maybe. I think a 25 might be very, very, very good for the market and probably leave happy vibes and a little tingling feeling in your feet, right? We have to be so careful. Now, some people are calling for a 75 basis points, which I think is absurd, a bit stupid. But we'll see. Now, as you can see here, Fed rate cuts could crash the crypto markets. There could well be a huge amount of liquidity getting dumped somewhere, and often you find that cryptocurrency is the most liquid form of money at the minute, realistically. So that's going to be huge, right? Arthur Hayes has been talking about the central bank era is over, and yeah, I think a lot of people think that as well. But the reality is here, we as a cryptocurrency community have never really had a massive rate cut that you really feel. This is nothing like, 2020 or whatever, when we talk about that, and I'll talk about the past. This is going to be very, very interesting because we're going from 5.5% down to a much lower level. So we have to be realistic. This is obviously all if, buts and maybes, and it's important to know. Another if, but and maybe is the fact that Q3 is often pretty shit, and we're getting towards the end of that, and it may well reverse this a little bit. We're not doing too bad. Ethereum's doing terrible though, as you can see. Bitcoin, not too bad. But keep your brain on Ethereum. I'm going to tell you something in a minute. But right now, Bitcoin currently is outperforming what the usual case is for a September month. It's usually a bit low. Not much information, not much like back testing elements around it in terms of big swings. It's usually pretty meh. Holiday season. So let's look at two obvious scenarios. Scenario A. You've seen this chat before, boys and girls. The recession, right? We might well be leading into a proper recession in the next God knows how long. Oh, are we already in one? Maybe. Right. So this is, I've talked about this before. If you've been watching my channel, you'll know this. Maybe we go up and then we go down. That's the S&P 500, by the way. That was in 2007, so a long time ago, right? The other caveat to all of this is obviously what happens with obviously crypto. And the fact that with rate cuts here, now this is obviously is very subjective, I know. What if rate cuts just leads to liquidity just coming back into the market and people get interested again, and over time that interest rate drops, increases borrowing and probably quantitative easing, and we all go back into the circle of life again with the markets. Could be interesting. Now, realistically, the Ethereum / BTC chart is doing awful. Awful. Horrendous. Underperforming. Right? Dog shit. But that might change. It can't go down forever. The final thing to talk about is quite obvious. Bitcoin dominance. Higher. We're at record highs. We've been at stupid levels. Weekly close, as I mentioned here, but it's now 58.5 in terms of the daily time frame, roughly. We cannot be that far away now from this topping out and breaking down. If this does start to break down, it's going to get very juicy. Now, that doesn't mean we're going to all make it. It might mean that 12 to 20 to 50 coins just go berserk and liquidity is drawn into them. If there's interest in the market, it'll go. And I've talked about this before on my Patreon. If you want to jump in, link below. Same with Learning Crypto. Bitcoin, in my opinion, has hit certain levels. We'll talk about Bitcoin's next leg in a second. If Bitcoin hits certain levels, volume of interest and eyeballs and all that kind of hype will return. Funny enough, look at what happened at the start of this year. The same thing will happen, and the algorithm will recommend content. Like when you look at puppies, you get puppies. Like when you look at crypto, you get crypto or whatever, right? It's just the way it is. And realistically, no one's paid attention to what altcoins are doing at the minute because no one really cares until they have to and they've missed the boat. That's the most important factor, you know, how it is. But as I say, right, what if this is the slow burning catalyst that allows the market to start to move? We are past halving. We have had an all-time high in Bitcoin. Altcoins, though, as you could probably imagine in my previous video where I talked about potential breakout levels for altcoins, are going to probably start showing signs of life when the market returns to normal state. So Bitcoin and its next leg, potentially, right? So what's interesting here, for the first time in a long time, a couple of months at least, we're actually starting to form a basis around a level of support where we're starting to get some interest. For obvious reasons, this is August, rejection back down to the lows. Impulse pulled back onto a level of support, which is huge. Are we going to continue going up to this box? Now, we do need to break this structure level. This $64,000 level is going to be huge importance for everyone involved in crypto, right? We need to get back onto that point. We need to get back into that mid-range levels instead of the low-range levels, right? The reality is, though, it's going to be quite interesting to see what's going to happen. And we are slowly falling right now because we have rejected, but we may well see some volatility tonight. So be fucking careful. The factor of this one is as well, we are literally in this mid-range point, give or take. We were around the, as I mentioned before, in the low range. Get ready means, what if we go back down into these levels? Volatility. What if we go back to the range highs? Oh, people get excited, right? So be mindful of it. I've said it before. I don't know fully what the market's going to do. I'm not experienced enough to tell you that. Bitcoin, the rate cuts, its history, we've never had a cut of this significance prior a high inflation number, right? It's all new to us, right? It's leading into a potential unknown area. So we can't just speculate and go, oh, but it's going to go this because of the pay. May not happen. So be fucking ready, right? Be careful. Now, when we talk about this, yeah, cool. What I am also interested in now, if I go to, let me just go to a higher time frame. We need to look at the higher points. Now, when I've talked about this before, I've talked about potential cycle low. This could be the cycle low. Hopefully, fingers crossed it is. Fingers crossed it is. But we're going to look at the all-time high break and these potential extension levels from the swing low to swing high to the correction levels, which is the 382, which is roughly where you could argue cycle low, and then into a potential extension level all the way up here. If we get a very strong end of the year and into a really good Q1, into a full-on vibrant bull market, and Bitcoin's around 83, 85, 89, $90,000, people are going to talk about it quite a lot. Leading to people going, well, Bitcoin's interested. Whoa, what could I buy next? But no one wants to buy Bitcoin, right? Yeah, I know. Crazy. However, as I've alluded to it, Ethereum, struggling. Let me prove this point even more. Ethereum.D. Whoa, what a breakdown this is. What an absolute loss of a structure. Ew, it's ugly. This is leading to Bitcoin dominance going higher. This is leading to other things taking over a little bit. BNB is actually doing pretty well, realistically. It's starting to slowly chug up, and we may well be breaking out and going even higher. BNB is a really good retail coin. Why? Because it gives you the flow of the market. Retail only coming back. Maybe. Interesting, I know. Bitcoin dominance is in this potential area of huge significance where you need to keep your eyes on it. I know, I've talked about this many times. And yes, I have been wrong, thinking it was going to top out about 56%, not 56,000, but you get the idea, but you get the idea. However, as I've also talked about in previous videos, we're trying to get a change of character in the trend, and this could take a bit of time to get there, but on the weekly time frame, it rejected this level, which is annoying. We've gone back down to these levels, but realistically, when you look at the past and the start of this year and this little uptick here, that was a really interesting alt season. So was when you look at the others.btc, where we got a little bit of an uptick over this course, and money flowed back into the market and people got interested. We only need one more of those and then we're gravy, really, because people will get interested, especially with rate cuts, with borrowing, all that. You get the idea. So yeah, it's very, very interesting to note how the market is physically, fundamentally doing right now. But I don't think people are happy. That's the thing, and we need to talk about it. So I'll give you a scenario here. Yes, we may well find that this will start rolling over. We may well go back down to these levels because liquidity is moving away from Bitcoin into other things for opportunity. Because, let's be honest, altcoins are low. They are low, but I think a lot of people are greedy. I know, I've said it. I'm calling you out. You're greedy. So let me know in the comments what you think on this one. A lot of people, I think, got caught out by Bitcoin. I think they got caught out by certain things. I've also got caught out. I got caught out by Solana. Other things have happened. For me, we've talked about the fear and greed an awful lot. People are getting greedy and they're always wanting more, that last cycle kind of narrative, that big, massive push. And when we talk about the technical side of it and we'll talk about gold and all kinds of random, wonderful stuff, you've got to think of the long game. So you've got to be ready. You've got to be ready for whatever happens. Now, if you are an investor today, you should be an investor tomorrow, next month, next year, next decade. You should not be treating this market as a flash in the pan because it will not work and it will not satisfy you ever. If you are investing today and in 6 months' time or 6 years' time, 12 years' time, whatever, and you've quit and you've let this all go, you're going to look back at Bitcoin or you're going to look back at some altcoins or even gold or even the S&P or the NASDAQ or the Dow Jones stocks, whatever it may be, and think, what an idiot, what a loser I am, right? Because my point is simple. This market could well be going into an absolute vibrant bullish market before a recession. But also you got to think of the recession. Bitcoin, crypto, all these entities around it have never had they've never had a proper recession. So it could well be a flight to safety when the interest rates could be the trigger of that, right? So when we're talking obviously about Bitcoin and talk about time and you've got to kind of be in the market and be ready for whatever happens, you have to be somewhat alert to the market at all costs, right? Let me show you something of a little bit of significance that may well tickle your fancy, right? When we look at gold, gold, people are like, oh, but fucking boom is like gold and all that, right? The last rate cut where we talked about in terms of the tweet here from Brett was interesting. Fuck. Whoa, what happened there, mate? Whoa, we died. This is also what happened to gold. It really shot up by 40%. 40% move on gold any day of the week is freaking ridiculous, right? Really big push to the upside into the, well, you know what happened, right? But this could also repeat because everything else is repeating, right? This tweet here showcasing the wild similarities between the market. It may not happen, but now we have a really different market in terms of cryptocurrency being very liquid. You could argue gold too in terms of trading platforms and all that kind of, you get the idea. Could be a good alternative. If we repeat what gold did and we were a bit of a flight to safety, that is where you really need to pin your ears back and be ready, because I do think, right, people are going to get caught out. And this is where we need to be quite serious with money. And if this is not financial advice in any way, shape or form, but if people are like, let's just say, go back to that scenario where we're up at these stupid levels, right? And we're going higher and higher and stupid levels, and levels you're probably 200,000, 250,000, right? And there's content creators telling you to buy and this is the best, we're going to go to 1 million. I'd say the opposite and go sell the fucking thing, right? Because if we are going to go into a recession, we're going to see a bit of a problem. Yes, flight to safety, but eventually the music does stop. This time is not different. It will eventually correct and we will see a bear market and it will probably suck. Just don't get caught out by it. That's the thing. Be ready for it, right? Be ready and waiting and understand what is physically happening. Interest rates could give us opportunities in the next coming months, opportunity for people to borrow or institutions to borrow, whatever, and it may well make life a little bit better. Mortgage rates will drop, interest rates, loan rates, whatever, may well drop. Good. But it doesn't always give us liquidity instantly, does it? It doesn't always flow quickly. Got to give it time. So be wary of that. Anyways, the final thing I want to cover and talk about, and it's obvious, I know I've mentioned it. The Dow Jones is currently at all-time high. It's all about similarities, right? What if we're going to go even higher and then we correct down to some of these horrible, stinky levels, right? It may well happen. The S&P is almost closing a weekly candle at all-time high. It's not closed yet. So today's going to be very, very interesting to note that. With regards to the likes of the S&P and then the Dow Jones and the Nasdaq, etc., there's some massive structure points much lower, but obviously you've got to think of how the American market is moving right now. But to caveat all this, we've got an election. No one wants to go into an election with a shit market. We may well get that massive rally up, that Santa rally into November, December, into January Q1. And then we may well start to see the fucking whole world end. And then it gets very interesting for the likes of crypto to take up the mantle of liquidity providing and all that kind of stuff. When we talk about, the FTSE 100 in the UK, it's just chugging away. It's kind of at all-time highs in a way, but it's not doing much. Let's be honest. The UK is a really bad market. But what is interesting, a lot of people do talk about this, and I'm not really massively into this kind of metric, and I'll be honest with you, but I see the comparisons. The Russell is looking likely to be a really good counter indicator for altcoins, as daft as it sounds, right? So when we talk about, obviously, COVID crash, whatever. When we talk about, obviously, that prior run in the bear markets, weirdly, the time frames do marry up, right? Which is very, very interesting, right? And when we talk about structure points, we talk about levels here, we are slowly trying to break out. Obviously, this is lower companies, but also a bit of degenerate gambling and whatnot. But we've also, final point, we've got to look at the VIX. It's still at 17 levels. We're not at these kind of stupid lows what we were at. So there's so many factors here that we could look at and get our teeth into and understand the point here. The point is, the market's probably going to change very, very quickly in a way that, not quick enough to notice life-changing wealth, but there's going to be a different bout of volatility. I think we're going to have a bit of a volatile Q4, which could be interesting for traders. It could be interesting for investors to get opportunities to buy into the market or return to the market, which I think is the caveat to everything here, right? So the final thing I want to talk about, when we talk about people returning to the market, we talked about that big rally from literally, you can probably argue from October 2023 up to like this kind of March time where we had this massive run. The markets returned to a silly state. They did. Everything went a bit ballistic. Certain things went mad and it went a bit crazy and people went and lost their brains a little bit, right? Some of them people have removed themselves from the market and lost again. That will happen again. History will repeat. We just need that volatility. If we are going to see this big, massive push to the upside and we're going to start seeing some silly kind of moves and headlines coming in, we're going to see a rotation into altcoins eventually, because that's just how human factors and life works. I can bet my bottom dollar that if people are commenting on here, people will be like, well, why are you covering Bitcoin? No one wants to buy Bitcoin at these levels. But I know for a fact that you kick yourself if this is like 300,000 in about 3 years' time. I know it sounds daft to say, but people will. And that's the whole point of doing dollar cost average thing. And oh, by the way, I forgot to even mention that in this whole entire video. I bought more Bitcoin for the account. Basically, I'm going to do a dollar cost average every single week, every single month, and just add to my bags. There you go. I've added to another one. There's a link below to this, by the way. Basically, ChatGPT states that I will, by 2020, 2030, sorry, I will have basically $300,000. I don't believe it, but I want to see if I do. Why not? Anyways, I'm done. I'm going to stop talking. I hope you enjoyed this video. Comment, like, leave a subscription, whatever you want to do. Just be ready. Don't do anything silly. Don't be an absolute clown. Understand how the markets are going to run. But I don't think anyone knows. Be ready for both sides of the story. But remember, time is a factor. Don't quit. Don't be a knob, basically. Simple as that.